Hi, I'm Lynn Collins-Maie, co-founder of the Lily Mae Francis Foundation, and I want to thank you for agreeing to participate in this interview on suicide prevention. And if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tammi Boyd. I am the owner and founder of That's a Woman LLC.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to jump right into the questions if you don't mind, Tammi. Is that okay?
Not at all.
All right, so tell me a little bit more about your organization.
A quick background. I am a licensed minister, so I have been called to the ministry, been practicing in ministry for years. And recently, I would say during the time of the COVID shutdown, when we had that time to ourselves, that's when I was able to spend more time with God and really dive into my purpose and understand that my ministry was going to go beyond the walls of just the church. So that's when I was given the vision of starting a podcast and just becoming an advocate for mental health because I also went through some challenges at that time myself. I basically branched into more of motivational speaking, using scripture to get people there, but ultimately it's a mission of empowerment. So that became my driving force into what I'm doing now.
Okay. All right. And so I know your company is specific to suicide prevention. Tell me a little bit about why you decided to start that piece of your organization.
So that piece of my organization, because it's about ultimately mental health. That's the ultimate.
Okay.
Um, but I have been driving awareness to suicide because one, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Not everyone knows that. And I had my personal struggles with suicide. One, it started when I was 15 years old. My dad took his life in a drowning, an intentional drowning. And so, therefore, I had an early exposure to suicide and it stayed with me to the point that I spent most of my life thinking that it was going to happen to me. I just felt at some point when I would find myself depressed and down, I found myself wanting to end my life, but I would not end my life. And glad I didn't because I wouldn't be here. But that just made this particular time very near and dear to my heart.
Okay. And so you mentioned that your mental health suffered as a result of your dad taking his own life. And I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank
I
you.
do want to ask you, though, how did that personal experience impact your mental health? I know you said that it made you depressed and all that, but how did you make yourself keep going? How did you manage to keep putting one foot in front of the other?
Lynn, I'm here to say it was not easy. And I really don't think I reached my healing. Now, mind you, I said he did that in 86.
Mm,
I don't really think I tapped into my true healing until 2020,
wow.
maybe even 2021.
Mhm.
Because um, I looked at his life and I was like, let me back up. For a good part of my life, I thought when I reached 34, 35, I wasn't going to make it past that because I just thought that that was going to be my story.
Mhm.
I thought literally because he died around that age, that was going to be the same for me. And what's interesting, because I grew up in the church, I've been Baptist, Apostolic, Church of God, I've been all of it. But I would listen to T.D. Jakes, Bishop T.D. Jakes. And one time I heard him say he had the same struggle with his dad dying at a certain age. He didn't think he would pass his dad's age. And so, one, that was like relief, a big relief to know that I'm not the only one who struggled with that. So, one of my struggles to really answer your question was I didn't think that I was going to make it. And then I spent a good part of my life had kind of convinced myself mentally I wasn't. And then once I did, I realized, okay, I've done that. It was really like when I reached his age, like okay, I do have more living to do.
Mhm.
And so therefore another journey began, but it's not without struggles because again, still at that time I had not reached my healing place.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I actually lost my mom when she was 30 and I was 6, to an illness. And I had the same thought growing up, like, I'm not going to go past 30. I'm going to, die of this illness at 30. And so I never really related it to mental health. So that's an interesting concept that you pointed out. I have to really think about that for my own self. So thank you for mentioning that. All right. So how often do you think that suicide actually impacts the Black community?
Oh, every day, every day, every day. As a matter, as a matter of fact, since I've been having the conversation, which let me back up and say, I know this is not a popular conversation, right? No one really wants to have it. People are still in not necessarily denial, but yes, denial, because this isn't supposed to happen to us, right? I'm strong. We're told to be strong. We're told we can get through everything. We have scriptures inspiring us. However, the reality is when you look at some figures in this world, like I at the beginning of the month, I made reference to Don Cornelius. Who would have looked at Don Cornelius, Mr. Soul Man himself, peace, love, and soul? He took his life. Then you had Kate Spade. Kate Spade, she's a mogul. And it just goes back to say people struggle and they have these struggles and they don't talk about it because they don't feel that it's safe to talk about it because they're going to be judged for talking about it. And when you have people turn around and tell you be strong, don't think that way, this, that, and the other, no, no, people need to be truthful to who they are. They need to be able to express themselves. And I know in most cases, people are not because they're looked at as they have it all together. All is well. And sometimes all is not well. I learned a long time ago, it's okay not to be okay. But when you're in ministry, leadership, you're supposed to have it all together when
Mhm.
not necessarily the case.
Yeah, for
In
sure.
fact, and I'm sorry, as I'm talking, I'm reminded about 3 or 4 years when I was in Florida, the church that I was licensed in the ministry, ironically, during this same month, one of the associate ministers took his life. He had just left Bible study and he went home and literally killed himself in front of his wife.
Mm, it's terrible. And
So you looking at this man that's, in the pulpit and sharing,
mhm,
and to know he had struggles.
and he didn't share those.
He didn't share. And,
It's
a lot of that lack of sharing comes from fear of judgment.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Especially as a leader in the church. Absolutely. I think it's funny that you use those words all as well because I literally can tell you that I say that every day.
Yes,
Um,
I do too.
Dad has, he used to say, all is well. That was always our response to, how are you? Oh, all is well.
All
Even
is well.
all is not well, right? But it just became a general response to, to say. And so it's funny that you actually use those words specifically. I do want to ask you, what are some of the warning signs of suicide? I know you mentioned that. I don't know if the pastor that you referred to recent just now showed any warning signs, but do you know of any warning signs that a person could look for to see if a loved one is in trouble?
So, someone warning signs is subliminal messages. Oh, well, I won't be missed if I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
Or if someone starts liquidating their assets, getting rid of things that they care about,
Mm-hmm.
someone is withdrawn. They don't want to be anybody. And I mean, those are all depressions, but signs of depressions and depression and mental health. But those some people left in their moments of depression can take that to another level. Um, so yes, isolation, um, drug use,
Mm,
some or abuse of alcoholism, because we know a lot of people try to dummy down the pain with alcohol, and we know that that's not going to help, because we know when you drink and you drunk to oblivion and wake up the next day, guess what? Those same problems you were drinking, trying to drink away, they're right there waiting for you.
now they're worse probably. And alcohol is a depressant in itself. So that's not helping at all for sure. Okay. If a person sees someone that is showing some of the signs that you just mentioned, what would your suggestion be for a person that wants to help them? What are some suggestions of what they could do?
So the first thing I would do, ask the question. Ask, are you okay? And here's the thing. Listen. Ask to listen, not um to just right away give suggestions. Because one thing I have learned about people want to give you a piece of their mind when it's not necessary.
Absolutely.
when, when it's not necessarily the wise thing to do. It's just like, let me give you an example, like in death. I have learned, and I guess it took a personal experience for me to wake up and change, because especially in our community, we were always taught in death, no, you be strong, you this, that, and the other. And reality is you lost a loved one. Why would you be strong? So what's the thing people say? I think we're getting better at it, but years ago, the first thing people say, be strong, don't cry, don't
Mhm.
cry. Please tell me why not.
Absolutely.
And that's why you have some people that won't give themselves permission to grieve. There are people right now, years later, still haven't really fully cried at the loss of a loved one because they were told not to. So, therefore, if someone is in this position and you want to know about your loved one, ask, but ask with the intention of listening,
Hmm.
to understand. And even if you have to bluntly ask the question, are you thinking about hurting yourself?
Hmm. For sure.
Have you thought about suicide?
Hmm.
Those it's no shame to ask that question, because here's the thing, sometimes that blunt force trauma of being asked that question will make them open up and say, yes, I have.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they really probably have literally just wanted someone to ask that question,
Yeah, for sure. They
because
will.
people think people don't care.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So, are there any coping mechanisms or strategies that you can share for people that may be feeling low enough that suicide has come to them as a good idea?
Listen, for that, I'm going to start with the national hotline number, which is 988.
Okay.
There
So,
are licensed therapists, there are volunteers to help to have the conversation.
okay.
And if you don't want to pick up the phone and have the conversation with them, have it with somebody.
Hmm.
Because one thing I like to tell people all the time is they matter. And usually, a person that is contemplating suicide, they feel they don't matter. They feel no one cares about them. They don't feel loved. They feel alienated, whatever it is. So, therefore, my advice is whatever, find the safe space to talk,
Hmm.
because ultimately there are things on your heart, a person's heart, that they want to get out.
Yeah, for sure. Hmm.
And that becomes the pressure. It's like cancer. Like, if you don't talk about it or you don't deal with it, it spreads. So that feeling of depression and mental health and that struggle, if a person doesn't get the release, that's what causes it more. And then all these thoughts come to one's mind.
Mhm.
Like I told you, I'm spiritual, but of course I'm spiritual off of the Bible. And that's when the Bible says, cast those thoughts down. And in order to cast those thoughts down, you got to deal with them. You got to talk about them. And a lot of times, those thoughts come from broken places in one's life.
Mm. Absolutely.
I speak on this so often. I swear, no, people don't get tired of the truth. And the truth is, if you really want healing, it's places in your life you're going to have to confront. That's very painful.
Absolutely.
There's some very painful places. So ultimately, that would be like one of the things, because ultimately a conversation or a hand holding to just let somebody listen. Listen, I'll just quickly insert this. I met a gentleman at the gym just this past Friday because I'm talking about what I'm doing. I can't even say how our conversation started, but we ended up talking 3 hours.
Hmm.
3 hours. The first hour we was standing and my back started hurting and everything. Go have sit down so we can talk. But I said that to say there are people who want to talk to people in their lives
Mhm.
and are not able to. I read a couple of weeks ago, I met a young lady who told me, I don't like to talk to people about my problems because I know they have problems.
Mhm.
So there you have someone suffering, got things they really need to talk about, but don't want to have the conversation because they're trying to be strong when that's not always the best answer.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that actually completes all the questions I have for you. I do want to give you opportunity to share anything about your company that you would like for our viewers to see, at least how to contact you, a YouTube channel or a website or anything that you have available, so that we.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So my company is, again, That's a Woman LLC, That's a Woman, THASSA woman.com. And again, motivational speaker, basically my whole mission, my purpose is to empower people,
Mm.
have conversations, guide people into conversations, whatever it takes, whatever light I can be in a person's life, that's what I'm here to do. In order for you to fully understand this, let me back up. In 2021, I went through a really dark place. So much so that, remember, I told you guys I have struggled uh, with the thoughts of ending my own life.
Hmm.
But I was in such a dark place because of something that had happened that I prayed, God, I'm done. Please take me home.
Hmm.
Please. I don't want to be here anymore. And I started meditating.
Hmm.
When I started meditating, and I started with guided meditation, and it took me to a place so deep where my healing began. Whereas literally I would see images of things that were broken in my own life to help me face those things that I tell people. So from from my ministry is do as I did, not do as I say.
Absolutely.
That's my ministry. To the point, Lynn, and I promise you, it was so amazing when I experienced it. As I was meditating one day, I literally saw the image of a needle and thread stitching material back together. Symbolically, what God was showing me is the broken places of your life are being mended.
Mm. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And he made me realize, as anointed of a preacher, because I'm a prayer warrior, I've always heard people say, because I've been ministering on a prayer call for 10 plus years, 6 a.m. in the morning, um, sometimes. And I've always heard people say, your energy is infectious and this, that, and the other. So my anointing has always been there. But I was ministering from brokenness.
Right. Oh, wow.
That day, from my healing, when my healing was occurring, even to the point where God spoke to me and said, people from your past don't have access to your future,
Powerful.
is very powerful.
Mhm.
So when all of this occurred, that's around the time the podcast vision started coming forth. But even I was, and he told me, when you start versus ministering from the broken places, which you've always done, you're going to do it from a place of wholeness. That way, the advice that you give, the guidance that you give, you're not just giving it. And I know a lot of people in leadership, they're broken and still leading.
Yeah.
And that's not what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And so part of my excuse, if I'm getting in front of the camera, I need to lose weight, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, that is what led to That's a Woman.
Okay.
My YouTube channel, you would have to put the @ That's a Woman. And I'll tell you real quick why. The name That's a Woman was given to me by comedian DC Young Fly. He saw me in Palm Beach, went crazy. The video went viral. So if you just type That's a Woman, you're going to see that video.
So put an @ sign.
You'll see that video. So that's why I put emphasis on the @ And so I do a weekly podcast. It's about empowerment, healing, guiding. And I try to stay cut up on events, but ultimately my messages are to, one, how can I help you get guided towards your healing? Because I am unofficially a life coach, but in ministry and dealing with people, I'm also a coach. And to spread love, light, positive vibes. Because listen, when I started meditating, my life has gone, when I said spiritual, a whole nother journey. And so my thing is, I want people to be free. I want them to be healed, whole, and free. And whatever I can do, that's what I'm here to do. I also host events. I'm like, hey, I can be the life of the party. It's like I said on my podcast recently. Yes, I'm a star, but look, got a little ratchetness to me too. Gotta have fun because that's what life is
Balance.
about. Huh?
It's called balance. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly. So yes, I got all of that going on. And that's what my business is about. My business is about balance, living your true purpose, living life to the fullest. Abundance is yours, wealth is yours, but we got to get into the mindset and we have to address those issues that are affecting us and holding us. I'm sorry, girl, I can go on a tangent.
Not a problem. That's a powerful message. I do thank you for joining today. And I hope that we can circle back and talk to you again and see what's going on with That's a Woman, if that works for you.
It definitely does, Lynn. Thank you so much for reaching out. I appreciate you. I do. So thank you for having me.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.